I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
Folks, if you're in Texas or Oklahoma and need a top-tier metal building, you need to call the guys at Cowboy Steel Construction. Founded by Trey Norris back in 2000, Cowboy Steel has grown into one of the premier metal building contractors in the region. Need an indoor arena or want to cover the one you've already got? These guys know how to get the job done right. Strong, reliable, and built to last. Whether it's for ranch, business, or personal use, Cowboy Steel Construction has you covered, literally. Check out their work on social media at Cowboy Steel Construction on their Facebook and Instagram page, or call Trey Norris at 903-348-4611, and you can email them at cowboysteel2k@gmail.com. All right, today we have the legend T. Woolman on the podcast today. T, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
You bet, Charlie. Appreciate you having me.
Man, just looking at your stats, it's phenomenal to think what all you have done in your career. 3-time world champion in 1980, 82, and 91. 26 times to the NFR in the team rope and heading. 19 times in the steer roping. 45 NFR qualifications altogether. One of the few guys that won Rookie of the Year, the average title, and the world title in 1980, roping with the legend Leo Camarillo, the Lion. Just your partners going down the list, and this is, I'm sure, probably some I've forgotten, but going down the list of the Lion, Clay Cooper, Bobby Harris, Rich Skelton, Tyler Magnus, Patrick Smith, Corey Petska. I mean, I'm sure I've probably forgotten some, but, you know, and then average title in 05 as well, inducted to the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame in 04. Some of the greatest horses that I've remembered, from Dutch to Megazord, and a lot of them along the way. And I can't wait to get into the story and go through how you got started from Bonita, Oklahoma to just that legendary stats that you have in career. It's amazing.
It was a long road, that was for sure. It was something I dreamed about all my life, you know, wanting to do this. And so when you're a little kid, you're dreaming about wanting to go to the national finals rodeo, be a world champion, and just on, you know, and then it happened to come true. So
And it happened fast.
Yeah, pretty fast.
Yeah, I love just talking about this. I'm really excited just about the partners and, you know, the legends that you roped with as well. But you managed the 377 arena here in Stephenville.
Yes, Jackie and I do.
You and Jackie, and Troy Gibbs owns that. And one of the things that I feel like you guys have done is you brought team roping back to Stephenville again, because we were losing out to a lot of other places. We didn't really have the facility. And you guys have a facility now that you guys are, I mean, how far are you guys booked out now?
We're booked. We actually, this year, we was booked for 48 weeks. We've had a couple events that canceled just because of other stuff. And we take the month of December off to clean up, get things put back together and stuff. But yeah, it's a barrel racing, team roping facility that Troy and Mary wanted to bring it back to Stephenville. And so they was looking for someone to manage it. And I run into Jackie in a roping and at the Lone Star, actually I don't know if it's the World Series or something, and ask her, she goes, y'all ought to come up here and take a look at this. You might want to do it. And so we came up, talked to Troy and Mary, and got it all put together. And when we moved here, there was nothing here. He says, we're going to be ready in like February. Well, it was July. And so there's nothing in the arena, just a top, some little bit of dirt. And we started getting the dirt ground ready, and then he said we're going to put them in with panels and do all this stuff, and Lyndon Merle and myself, and of course Troy was involved in everything. He okayed whatever we did, and Ben Clements came along and tweaked us here and there and put it up, and so there's 2 arenas. The building's 850 feet long, 210 feet wide total. So the arenas are 258, I think, 258 by 144, and one of them 6 inches shorter. I think the second arena is 6 inches shorter than the first arena. There's a warm-up arena. So, and then we have a steer barn that houses, we've had up to 900 head in it before, but about 650 is pretty easy right there. And so you just run them across from the steer barn. If it's raining, Troy don't like nothing to get wet when he's roping. So come across one way, one arena goes one way, one set goes the other way, and it runs fast.
It does. It's one of the few arenas you looked at it and you're like, yeah, somebody roped, knew what they were putting together right here, because you're not getting wet. The warm-up facilities are great before both arenas, and the fact you can rock and roll and jackpot, having those 2 arenas, how it's set up is, because it's almost hard to go back to a 1 arena nowadays if you have a lot of teams.
Right.
Because of how much you can rock and roll the teams now with them 2 arenas.
Yeah, it's good. It sets up, it flows, everything flows into, we got a great sound system for the main arena. It don't bleed over to the second. You can hear them, but it's not bleeding over. So, like when you go to roping, you're like, what did he say? What did he say? So you can always hear wherever you're at in the building. You can hear it in the parking lot. You said, Colton Dugan, I think's his name. He put the sound system in for us. And so it rose good. And it just,
and it helps too, as many rodeos and jackpots as you've been to, Jackie, being very knowledgeable with the barrels, because you guys do a lot of different events other than just team roping as well. You do quite a bit of barrels, right?
Right.
So to be able to have that knowledge, to be able to have things run smoothly, has to be a huge advantage to have.
Yeah, it's nobody looks at it like we're going to go to the barrel race or team roping. Starts at 9:00, so they come, show up, rope, leave. Well, we're just getting started, or we're just finishing, because we had to Clay Logan roping last weekend, a little over 2,300 teams, paid out a little over $1 million. But then on Monday morning, we had a barrel race at noon, so we get through it. The roping's over at 8:00 that night. Well, my crew comes in, starts cleaning, prepping up for the next morning, and we average 400 to 500 barrel racers on Monday. Exhibitions, racers, and everything. We use 2 arenas. We exhibition in one arena, have a jackpot in the other arena, plus a few exhibitions, and so it's ongoing, And so another thing, like I said, the weather.
That's what we were talking about earlier. That was fascinating to think about because we'll get that in 1 week.
Right.
All the different variations.
You get humidity, you get rain, you get wind, you get heat, you get cold. It all plays with the ground, so you got to be on top of it. And I got a couple of guys that's pretty good. They watch the weather and sees it's like, we need to put water. We don't need to add water. We need to do that. And I'm like, hey, we're good. Whatever, so everybody stays on their game and tries to make the ground good for everyone.
Yeah, learning the science of it, because the weather like say, would we have a freeze last week, and and yesterday was almost 90.
Yeah.
The weather here is so bipolar. Staying on top of the weather, managing an arena, I'll bet that is a full-time job in itself.
Yeah.
I think that, the amount of kids and the amount of people wanting to come to Stephenville, because this is the mecca where the ropers are at, the teams are at. It's hard to compete with, I think, Arizona in the wintertime, because that's where so many people go because of the weather, the beautiful weather, and it's so fun to rope outside. But the opportunity it feels like for young kids with the colleges, the NFR guys want to see what they got. This is the spot where it's all happening. Was it Troy's vision to kind of see that this was headed this way, that it kind of needed revived?
Well, we talked about that some. They just wanted a place where they could go, have fun and rope, and not have to travel a whole lot. And since they live in Bluffdale, they have a ranch in Bluffdale. So they built this for people to come and enjoy, and it's his, and that's what he likes to do. He don't hardly go anywhere anymore. He just comes to Stephenville because he goes, well, we're going to have a roping this weekend. We're going to have a roping Wednesday night. So He comes, ropes Wednesday night, comes on Friday or Saturday, ropes a couple of days, and then goes back. But yeah, I think our facility is really, really good. You know, it's not over the top. It's not too bad one way or the other way. It's really easy. We try to make it pleasant for everyone. I know they think that I'm a little grumpy about some stuff, but
it's amazing what happens when you have to make things right.
You know, I mean, you gotta park here. You gotta park here. And you gotta be able to move and get through where everything flows. And so we try to keep it that way. Try to keep it clean. I mean, that's trash picked up, and it's just ongoing. One event goes into the next, and you know, like I said, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we usually have jackpots. Monday, we were back to a barrel race. So sometime in there, we got to clean a little bit. So usually Tuesday's a clean day, come back with the jackpot Wednesday, and we clean on Thursday, and we're ready to roll on Friday again. So it's just ongoing.
Yeah.
And, you know, people don't understand, and they're like, well, we're going to be done at 11 o'clock tonight. Well, my guys get through at 3 o'clock, and then we'll be back at 7, getting the lights turned back on, the speakers turned back on, getting everything ready for y'all to go again. And so it's a little monotonous sometimes.
And you guys are adding on as well, you said. Some more plugs, some more stalls.
Yeah, we're going to add another stall barn. We added another 4.5 acres of parking. So we just keep adding a little bit here and there. I think this might be our last little push, but we're good. And, you know, we'll have about 80 plugs and 286 stalls. And so surely we can make that work.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I know the community had to be very appreciative of it to be able to bring this much business back to Stephenville again. That is well deserved to be. If we're going to be the cowboy capital of the world, we got to be able to have jackpots, and so that was a good back. You know, I think good for our economy to be able to get everyone back here to the ropings. And Clay Logan just got done with his roping last week, and man, that one was. You know, I remember when he had it after COVID,
right.
And it was just like the perfect storm.
Yeah.
You know, he had just a blowout of teams. It was one of the first, basically, jackpots back since then.
Right.
And then it's just expanded so much. Now he has 2 a year. But, yeah, what'd you say, over 2,000 teams?
Yeah. Was up on Friday. There's up over 230 or 40 teams on Friday. You know, they had a 15, 14, 13, and a warm-up roping. And, you know, the 15 was huge. The 14 was probably bigger than they've ever had. So it was.
And then the 12 roping, I heard, is one of the biggest of the year, other than the maybe similar to the count that like they have in the pre-Vegas roping.
Right.
But yeah, so the numbers are just.
You know, it was they hit it again. You know, just so the week before it was kind of cold, a little bit cool, but not bad. Everybody could get out and rope a little bit, and then bam, it turns off 70 degrees, and everybody want to get out.
Yeah.
And so it hit, and like I said, it runs. We run good. We run 2 arenas and just shot through it. And
I was fixing to come out there, and then my little girl had an ear infection, and about every other hour, you could see her would hit, and she'd scream and cry, and I was Jackie was at a jackpot, so I had the kids, and I was like, yeah, this doesn't look pleasurable to go and ruin everyone else's day with my kid bawling and crying. So I got my my membership for the X Factor, so I was able to watch it online, and man, it's gotten so fast. I was watching the open roping, and it's wild how good everyone's gotten. I really do like the pick one, draw one. I like it in the fact, and I love your perspective, I like it in the fact of maybe some of the young kids coming up, you know, that maybe wanting to see where they're at, you know, and having a chance to draw Caleb Driggers and seeing where they line up on the backside behind somebody like that, or having a chance to draw Junior and Thorpe, and on the head side seeing where you kind of line up. I like it where it kind of gives guys a chance to be able to draw some of those guys and kind of see where they're at.
Yeah. There were some draw teams in the short go right there that had chances to win. I'm pretty sure Cooper Britton and Hunter Cook was a draw team. I'm not for sure about that. I'm not sure because I didn't go look at the list. And then Kyle Dennison and Cody too. I think they was a draw team. Reno Stovner and Andrew Ward was a draw team. So them 4 teams, and I'm maybe Peyton Walters and Nikki was probably a draw team. So there's several draw teams right there that was on top of the board.
Mm-hmm. And I remember a lot of times draw teams have won it.
Yeah, last year, Eric Rogers and Brandon Gonzalez. Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that too is, I mean, to me, that's going to increase the teams because everyone feels like they kind of have a chance. And that's add to the numbers of the amount of people that come and the money added that Clay and Shane Boston are able to get to.
Right.
Create such a good event.
It's great. Yeah, it is. It was tough. It was so tough. I mean,
it was.
They had a 11 or 12 second cutoff in the first 2 rounds, 10-second barrier. So if you break the barrier, you're done. And 158 teams started. Second go round was 99. Third go round was 58. And the fourth go round was 44. And then they brought 20 back to the short round. You know, they start out, if you're watching their open, like I was sitting there watching it, they start out the first few teams are catching their 7s, a couple of 8s, but 7s, and then somebody goes 5, and then once it goes 5, there's a whole new ball game, and then it's 6 and 6, and it wasn't just over the top tough setup, but it was tough. You had to score. James Watson, he's the producer, I guess. So Shane Boston has steers, Watson has steers. I think George Ishman has some steers, and so they change steers every go round for the open roping. So one set they had a bigger set, next set had a little set of freshies, and the next set a kind of bigger set horns, and
try to level it out.
And they just spread it out through the whole rope, and it was good. So had score, and they reach the headers reach, and healers throw fast, and it's good watching.
Isn't it wild how it's a 5-header and it's almost 5 rodeo runs?
Yes.
It is wild, especially enter 3 times. You don't see it as much in the enter 1 times.
Yeah.
Like when you go to the Spicer Grip, they're going to be more conservative. But you give them guys 3 chances at it, they're going at it, ain't they?
Oh, yeah. They just turn themselves loose and just see how it goes.
But,
but I mean, it's just the way it is now, like back when we roped and stuff. So I take nothing away from them. Nothing, because they rope spectacular. There's nothing away. But let's put a 650-pound steer in there and see if you can stop him. You know what I'm saying? So the cattle they've got littler, which is good. I'm all good with it. But, they're saying, well, the roping's got faster. Well, let's run one of those in there that weighs 650, 675 and let Dustin hang it on him and let's stop him, Levi. You can't throw that fast and stop them because the momentum, they're big and they're just, so it's changed and it's changed for the best, and it's good. It's good watching people like pastimes and stuff. So that's the only thing, the starts are different because when we started, the chutes were flat. Now the prefers have got the V's in them.
That's probably another 1.5 feet.
Yeah, probably 1.5, 2 foot. So, when you go to measure, and it's a little bit different. And so it's not the same. So but it's great. I mean, it's like I said, it's good watching. And
well, and you think about what you and Jake Barnes and so many did was created a blueprint, that really wasn't established probably before your guys' time. When you guys were out there wasn't no 4-wheelers, there wasn't Smarties, there wasn't the technology you have nowadays. Right. You guys were finding it on your own.
Yeah.
And then now these guys have got so many, you can watch every run on X Factor. You can watch almost every rodeo on the Cowboy Channel, and, where these guys are just studying it, and you can see where it's evolved and, watching different styles. And it's fascinating where the industry is now for sure.
Yeah, there's so much to work with, It's like little kids start down and start watching, and you watch videos. You got dummies. You can go on a walk. You can trot. And you control it all. Where we started, we was like, okay, let's get on, let's go, and so
for sure,
it's good.
Well, it was kind of fun to watch the title bout a little bit of. I think Caleb Driggers and Wesley Thorpe come back 5th, if I'm not mistaken, 4th or 5th. And, they're in their prime. These guys are the highlight of what's going on right now.
Right.
And just Driggers, 2-3 coils tight. And then Thorpe got around that sucker, and I guarantee that steer's still limping. Just put it on them. And then you got Travis Tryon, you got Tyler Tryon and Nikki Northcott. Nikki Northcott, a 2nd generation healer, behind his dad, world champion Steve Northcott, and then he got Tyler Tryon, third generation team roper for his dad's one of the arguably one of the best headers in his era, Clay Tryon, and they're high teen. So they're going, the young kids at 18 going against the guys right now in their prime. It was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, it was, and like Driggers and Wesley, they made a great run, come back 5-something, I think. I can't remember. So Tyler and Nicky had to be 6'8". They go 7 flat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just
barely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, I think Nicky took an extra swing, but what are you supposed to do, I mean,
I think it was, his clock, I think, was close with the extra one. And I think also, too, is like, I'm not going to leave the money on the table. But either way, watching those kids at that age, being able to hang with them. And, it's fun to watch that, where you're watching the guys coming up and the guys that are still kind of hanging on, the guys are still like right there in their prime. Those are fun storylines, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah. They did a deal at some of the ropings over there this weekend. So they took 20 or 25 back to short round. So if you was 21st or 26th, they'd bring you back to run a bonus steer. So, you're thinking, all right, how fast we got to be?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they said we will be 12.5 to 12.99. Said, okay. So you had to be slick horns, had to be 2 feet. Couldn't break the barrier. So you had to rope, just go be 12.5 to 12.99.
That's cool.
It was pretty good.
That is fun.
One team was 13.06.
Yeah, you can really work on your internal clock.
And I thought it was pretty good. It was Peyton Emmett and Case Key, and they made it. I heard them. They was over there getting a deal. They said, so he went and stuck it on him, turned him. Case healed him. Well, he wouldn't face. He was sitting there like, okay, face. Anyway, it was 13.06.
That's funny.
And then they figured out, okay, we're gonna have flag on the healer because you guys are trying
to work system.
Yeah. So then they went to flagging on the healer, and that's the only one that got close. But it was fun. It gives somebody something to do and create
some entertainment.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
it was great.
I also thought it was pretty cool too, where Clay Logan. I heard they paid also on draw teams.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool too. Incentivize more people to enter.
Yeah, it was a deal on like last year, Eric and Brandon won the rope, and it was a draw team, and then Brandon passed away here in the last couple of weeks.
It was probably one of the more memorable wins, in my opinion, with Rogers. I think they roped together a little bit growing up, and Brandon being the pick team or the draw team, and they them winning it, but then Brandon's story, of battling with cancer and then winning that rope, and that roping is going to be really memorable, I think, because of that event, because going through that really had to, man, just you could feel God's presence when you see Brandon win that roping.
Yeah, you could. It was awesome.
So that's going to be something memorable, and I bet Clay and them probably do something with that. And what a great tribute to a great guy.
Yeah, it was great.
So I'm excited to go through your story, Chief. 1956, Bonita, Oklahoma. So your full name,
T. Squatney,
and that is Cherokee for Boy in the Woods.
Yes.
I love that, because I remember hearing Bobby Harris call you that a couple of times, and I never knew that till later.
Yeah. There's not very many people ever call me T. Squatney. My mom mainly would call me that, and when she did, I was probably in trouble.
It's like the middle name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like T. Squatney, like you knew you'd messed up.
Yeah. So then it shortened for T after that.
Yeah. Just a lot easier, you go to first grade and everybody's got your name card on your name here. My desk has got to get a bigger desk, get my whole name on there. So then I was like, hey, let's just shorten it to 3 letters.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot simpler.
Now, did you ever live up to the Boy in the Woods? I know you hunted quite a bit when we lived there in Llano. You went hunting quite a bit.
I don't know if I lived up to the Boy in the Woods, but, I like to hunt and fish a little bit. But, yeah.
Did you ever win St. Paul? That's about the only closest thing we had to woods, I guess, in rodeo.
I'm sure I did.
Yeah.
I think I did win St. Paul one time.
Yeah.
I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, rodeo the major rodeo I didn't win was Fort Worth. They didn't have it.
Yeah, they didn't have it for the longest time.
In my career.
Yeah. So when did you get started roping, and what made you get started roping?
I don't really know why I started. I was young. I was 5, 6 years old, just like other little kid. Picked it up. My dad owned a filling station there in Thanida, and there's a friend of ours that day worked on ranches up there. His name was Walker Vivian, and he worked for all the big ranches up there, day worked and stuff. And so he come by, and he'd tell cowboy stories and listen. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. And so he just kind of just followed. My grandfather had a farm up there. We called it a farm because he was a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
He raised crops and had some cows and a few horses here and there.
Did any of your family rope?
No. No. My dad roped a little bit with me, but as far as that's it. So, yeah, it was just kind of, I don't know why I just got intrigued with it and started, and one thing led to another.
Team roping back then really wasn't as popular in the rodeos.
No, it wasn't. No, so you're talking this, I was born 56, so 63, 64. I was 7 years old, 10 years old, somewhere 10 years old, I guess. And so
there were some jackpots up there.
Yeah, just little ones, they'd have a 3 for 10 or something like that, and we'd go to Muskogee, Oklahoma on Tuesday or Wednesday night, 3 for 16, I think. And so we just went back and forth and just trial and error and played with it and liked it. So
what was practice like? Because, when we talked about it a little bit earlier, we think about the kids now, there's speed trainers where you can get on a mechanical horse, rope a steer at the same height. You can pull sleds now and with dummies and all those things. Back then it was.
No, you just got backed in the box and chased them, like, what's this steer? You didn't even ask what the steer did. You just got on your horse and hoped you was tight and like, okay, here we go, take off chasing. Most people had big, it might have just been a pin, plowed up, great big, and just chase him till you catch him. And
yeah.
So, it was unreal. It wasn't like, okay, we're going to work on this. No, we're going to catch.
Yeah.
I figure out how to catch him. And, it wasn't like, okay, we need to do this, do that. And, okay, I got him. Turn on. Oh, wait a minute. And it was kind of Wild West for a little bit,
Because there was no blueprint.
There's nothing.
You're just trying to figure out how to
do it.
Find a spot that felt easier to catch than the last time you tried to throw.
Yeah, exactly. Ropes have changed. Everybody's like, what'd you use? I said, well, I used a rope about that big.
Was it 3/8 fulls or what?
7/16. And then they came out with a scant 7/16. And then they came out with the 3/8, and age nylon, age here, and and they just come in coils. Just go cut one off, tie it up, throw it out. They'd throw it out there, and away you go.
And what were the size of the steers back then?
They were big. That's why we talked a little earlier. That I don't know if the guys could catch them. I don't know if they could stop them like they do because they were big. They were just big.
Were they older? Did they cross them later?
I think they did cross them later because, and it's still that way today. The older the steer, the longer he lasts.
Mm-hmm.
But also the bigger he gets.
Yeah.
So, if you can hold them steers to 18 months or so, if you're practicing, get some, you just hold them over, and bigger they are. And them old Mexicans, M-brands, once you get them patterned, they're golden.
They are just the best, ain't they?
Yeah. And so, but they go so fast and everybody ropes so fast anymore. They get them and they don't want to rope big steers and they burn them up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard to, and so anyone that practices know that you can go to your house. I come to Charlie's house. Your steers are trained. They're going to turn, hop off. You can get 3 or 4 guys over there for lessons that wreck them. It takes you a week, 2 weeks to put them back, to get them trained back up. I mean, that's the way it was in Atlanta when we was there. I'd get my steers. There's all pretty trained. Everybody like, man, your steer's so good. But when they leave, they're not so good because you done train wreck my steers. So it's all about how you train them and everything like that. But yeah,
very interesting perspective.
Yeah, but the older they are, the easier they'll stay. It's just like trying to tell everybody, if you're roping big steers, you ought to try to lead them around. If you can lead them around the corner and not jerk them, they'll follow most of the time. And but if you train wreck them right there, then they're going to resist and want to set back, fight their heads. But if you ever, and there's a lot of old steers, they'll hop off if you don't just rack them right there and just try to get up there in front and lead them around, and they'll jump out of there a little bit.
That's interesting. One of the things I talk about a lot in my clinics is when you rope, trying to get it tight, and I always say politely lead them through the corner.
There you go.
And when you're talking about wrecking them is when there's slack in there and you hit them hard. And then it'll almost put them on defense, a little bit, and then also knock them off stride. It'll knock their balance off, where it takes them that long to find a hop again.
And then they just like, okay, you hit me, I'm staying back. So
get defensive almost.
Yep, for sure.
So did you rope through high school? Was there high school rodeos at that time?
Yeah, we did. I did. I went to high school finals a couple of times, and I headed and I heeled and just wasn't for sure what just a kid growing up. I can rope some calves, team rope, headed, heeled, did that and that, so forth. And so went to high school rodeos, got a scholarship, went to Cisco for a year, Cisco Junior College for a year, and then went back to Oklahoma to Claremore. It was Claremore Junior College. Now it's Will Rogers Community College now. And then went to Southeastern and Durant. So I made a circle of college rodeos. And
was there some guys you paired up with when you went to college? Some guys that you were hanging out with at the time?
No. When I went to Cisco, Roy was there, Buster Record, Billy T.
Roy Cooper.
Yeah. A bunch of them guys was there. And then they moved, and Southeastern and Durant was starting a rodeo team. So they all went down there, and that was started in the deal. Well, they wouldn't let freshmen go to Southeastern. Plus, my mom wouldn't let me go because she said I got to go to Cisco because that's where I got a scholarship. So I went there, and then transferred back to Claremore and did that.
What years was this?
Oh, 76, 77, 70, probably. I graduated 74, 75, so 75, 76, 77, 78, 79.
And was amateur rodeos the thing?
Yeah, they were
in a mix of all that.
A little bit, So going back a little bit there, there's a guy named Paulie Foreman from Oklahoma that I amateured around, went to some rodeos, and we'd always heard about down here in South Texas. Man, that's where it's at, And I was growing up, I was like, "Got to be Texas. If you're gonna be a cowboy, you got to be Texas. That's where all the cowboys are in Texas." So he was like, "Let's go the 4th of July." So down there, them Texas rodeos, they'd all talk. So we'd talk to somebody, I don't even know who we'd talk to, seen somebody, and we're like, we're going to go down there and go to them rodeos. So we rolled down through there and went to them, and like, oh, that was pretty cool. But before that, they had an 8-steer in Clayton, New Mexico, I think. And I seen a guy named Don Beasley. And so that was probably 72, 71, 72, somewhere in that area.
High school?
Yeah. And I'd went out there to roping with a friend of mine, and I see this guy named Don Beasley at an 8-steer. He goes 16 for 16, 2 feet. Never seen nobody catch 2 feet that many times in my life. You're talking 9, 10, 11 seconds, but 2 feet every time. So about a month later, they got a 10-steer in Camarillo. See him up there again. He does it again. He goes 19 for 20 by 2 feet. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to know this guy. So I got to talking to him a little bit. And I think that's how we found out about the amateur rodeos in Texas, was talking, because he was moving. He lived in California. He was moving back here and going to go amateur rodeo. So we went down there. Paulie and I went amateur rodeo one summer, 1 2-week period, I guess. And the next time I got to know him. I'm like, hey, he said, come down here. So I went down there and hung out with Don Beasley, and then we met Popeye.
Popeye Boltinghouse.
Yeah. And so
where was that at? New Mexico?
No, that was in Llano.
Llano.
Yeah.
So Don because I remember Popeye's from there, correct?
Yep, Popeye's from Cherokee
Mhm,
and in San Saba area right there. And we roped in Cherokee at the town arena in Cherokee. We'd go from Llano, go there and rope with him at the town arena. You ever been there?
The town arena?
Yeah, in Cherokee. So when
I feel like I have.
when you'd go, like, it probably wasn't even in existing when you got there, but when you went to his house, you'd turn at Cherokee, turn right, and go down that little road there. And it's just right there on the side, and we roped there. And he was like going to build a arena at his house, so we'd go there. Well, it was 9 miles from Cherokee, and then 7 miles of dirt road. So we'd go back there and rope. We'd rope all night.
Yeah.
And so,
Because he was a student of the game.
yeah, when I first went down
Heard so much about him.
when I first went there, he was just kind of learning how, and just, I called him a cedar chopper because he was back there and he had a toboggan on all the time. And I was like, well, you're a cedar chopper, dude. And but we hit it off, and we'd rope all night. And then Beasley, he didn't like to rope that much. He was like, he just roped so much and he was done. But I'm 18, 19 years old. I want to rope.
Mhm.
I can't
Get
get enough.
Yeah.
So he goes, well, we roped all night one night. And he goes, so just spend the night. And I was like, okay. So I spent the night and I never left.
So that's kind of where you got your start in
That's
Llano.
when I got my start in Llano with Don Beasley. Got me down there, and we went to amateur rodeos. I roped with Don Beasley and Dan Fisher at all the amateur rodeos down there. And I moved in. I moved in with Don, lived with him one summer, and then I went to Popeye's and stayed with Popeye and Jan the rest of the time until I got married. I actually got married. Jackie and I got married at the ranch at Popeye and Jan's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then about 1980 rolled around.
1980 rolled around. So in between all that, when I was about 14, I went to a school. Leo and Gerald and Reg had a school in Chickasha, Oklahoma at Hammond's indoor arena in Chickasha. And so not tooting no horn, but I was decent. I was at 14, 15, 16 years old. I was probably above the grade.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at school, and Leo and I kind of hit it off a little bit. And he's like, yeah, you think you're going to be good enough to rope? We might, just jacking around like we've all done before. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Didn't think no more about it. Never really seen him again. And then my first year of college, I went Cisco. And so Guy, Alan, and James, and they live in Santa Ana, and we're big buddies. And so I didn't know anybody, knew them guys in Llano, but nobody around there. And it was probably an hour from Cisco to Santa Ana, somewhere like that. So I'd go down there and hang out and rope with them. One winter, we went to Buckeye, Arizona to Bill Rohr's rope-a-thon. We used to be a big rope and 10 steer, 8 or 10, I don't remember. And so I roped Guy, and I went out there, and I heeled for Guy at that roping. And then Leo, everybody was there. All the guys was there. And then they had a steer stop and a trip, and they had all kinds of roping.
Who were kind of the guys then? You said all the guys were there. So
HV, Gerald, Leo, Rascos, Rodriguez, Phil Lumen.
And this is the 70s, so that's when these guys. Those were the guys back then.
Those were them. Wheatley, Jim Wheatley, and all those. But yeah, they had a steer stopping, and I won the steer stopping that year at that rope. And Bill always, the guy that put it on, Bill Rohr, he always matched the guy that won the steer stopping. But he had his own rules, and you had to use an 18-foot rope. But he wouldn't match me. He said, no, I'm not doing it. And I'm like, you've done it every year. It's a tradition. He goes, I'm not doing it. He wouldn't do it. And then Leo, so I was talking to Leo, and he was always like, it was in the short round. I was way down because I was healing, of course. But he goes, the cream always rises. Just remember, the cream always rises. I was like, okay, go. So if you know what that means, cream rises to the top.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he'd always say. The cream rises. Here we come. And then so, and he goes, hey, we got to get together sometime. And so I was going, then I went to school. That was 2 years later. I was in school, and south at Durant. And Roy Cooper had go to school. I don't know if he was in school then. I think he still was, maybe his last year, but he had just drive to Oklahoma City, rope, come back to Durant, go back and forth.
That was during the NFR.
Mm-hmm.
When it was in Oklahoma City, so he just drive back and forth every day.
Yeah, he just drive back and forth. And so he'd come in there one night, and one day, and he called me. He says, "Hey, Leo wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "No, you got to go with me tonight to the rodeo, and Leo wants to talk to you." So I went with Roy to the NFR that night and talked to Leo, and he goes, "You want to go? You want to go to the rodeos this year?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." So he goes, "Okay, we got to make it hurried because you got to get your card bought and you got to get ready for Odessa and all that stuff." So back then you didn't have to fill your permit. I mean, I never filled a permit.
So I don't even know what it is now, but for the longest time you had to win $1,000 on your permit.
Well, back then you had to win $2,500.
$2,500
back then.
And that took a minute.
Yeah.
So to be a card member, that means that you won a certain amount, so now you're a professional.
Yeah. So, but there's rules. So you could get 3 guys and the director to sign for you, and you could buy a card. So Leo signed, Gerald signed, John Davis signed, and Dick Yates was the team roping director, and he signed. And I got a card that next day.
Yeah.
And then we entered. So he goes, "Okay, son, we're going to go to Odessa and Denver, and we'll see how we do. And then we'll go from there." I said, "Okay, that's fair enough." So I went to Odessa. I think we might have won second. And I think I won second or either win Odessa and then went to Denver and won second, or vice versa. One of them I won second, one I won first at. And then at the end of the year, I won the average and the world championship, which we sent out to do. But up to that point, 24,000 was the most any team roper had ever won. And we win 49,000, right at 50,000.
Doubled it.
But we went to a lot of rodeos, that was before team roping was mandatory and there's no rodeo count. So you could just go. That's what everybody says. Well, you could just, they might be a rodeo over here in Colorado and they might be one in Idaho. So you had to, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
We went to 130 some rodeos my first year.
130 rodeos.
Yeah, 30 something.
And a lot of those were two headers. And so they weren't back to back. So a lot of those, not only were you going to 127 towns, you were probably going there twice.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. It's very rare that you probably, if you had the middle, which is great, but then if you didn't, you had to go back and forth as well. So,
and we only turned out one.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Leo was excellent at entering. He was strategy. He wanted to go here. He'd plan them out. And so it was good.
So what did you guys rodeo in back then? How did you guys stay the night? Because this is before the living quarters and all that stuff. So
Holiday Inn, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we
Tom
didn't.
Odette leave the light on for you at the Hotel 6.
We didn't have any. No Motel 6s.
None of them.
No, we was straight Holiday Inn.
Straight holidays.
Yeah. But no, when I went to California, my rookie year, I had a 454 truck, Chevy truck with I think I had a single axle, 16-foot stock trailer, 2 horses, and away I went. And, and then Leo, he bought a slant load, Bruton slant load. They made him. And then I kind of started all.
Because you guys, it's a full year out there going to that many rodeos. So.
Yeah, it was
it's
from
nonstop hotels.
January till November. There wasn't no September cutoff. It was 11 months. Yeah. That's what I told, that's what I tell everybody. So I set my goals. If you're going to rodeo, you got to have goals. You got to have, so it's like anything else in life. You got to have a daily goal, weekly goal, monthly goal, yearly goal, and goals that so high that you can't get them, where you'll keep trying, striving. Well, my goals was to make the NFR. I don't even know if I was going to win the average, but to win a world championship. So I did it my rookie year. So what else is there? I was 24 years old by then. So, but what else is there? You've done it. you went from here to here. Well, what else is there, And so it's a letdown because you're, in my mind, okay, I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm set. You know what? So if you live in the real world, Tyler Wade and Wesley won the world in when? 24?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? Who really cares?
It's already on to the next one.
I mean, yeah, they do. Their parents, their family does.
Mm-hmm.
But the Caleb Jiggers Jr., they don't care. We're starting over. We're
Yep.
going again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm up here. I'm 24 years old from Oklahoma, moved to Texas, lived in Texas, and, been just rocking along and done what I did. And I'm like, okay, I've got it made. No, we're starting over. Well, I done smoked all my head horses and my rigs wore out and I got to start over. I was like, holy crap, I got to start over. And so it took me a year to regroup.
Mm.
People don't think about that.
Yeah.
You're going here, it's a high, and then it's like, whoo. And, but yeah, it took a little while.
That is interesting because that is back then going to that much stuff. You're smoking everything.
Yeah.
The trailer, the tires, the trucks, the horses, everything.
Yeah. It's nonstop.
Chasing the dream.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
you hit the dream, but then financially it's like, oh crap.
Yeah. I mean, towards at the end of the deal, I was like, okay, I got to buy another truck. I got to buy another horse. I got to do this. I'm like, do I want to do this again? So it takes a little while.
Then you go back at it again.
Yeah.
How long did you rope with Leo?
We roped in 80 a little bit, and we started out in 81 going in, how partnerships did crisscross here and there. And then we started back again in 82 and roped a little bit, and then that was it.
So you guys won 2 world titles together?
No. I won 2 world titles.
Oh, so that's right.
That's
right.
Before.
Mm-hmm.
That
was before it was header and healer.
Yes.
Got it.
So, Leo was behind me. So how all that works is when we were going, there's a few rodeos entered twice. Caldwell, Idaho was entered twice. St. George, Utah was entered twice.
I see.
And there's a few rodeos in Canada that was entered twice.
I didn't even know pro rodeos back then were entered twice. I didn't even know that.
Just a handful.
Just a handful of them. Huh?
Before my time, there's several of them entered twice. I mean, there's a lot of rodeos entered twice, but them guys were so dominant going twice that they wouldn't get any teams.
Yes.
And that's why they went to one time. And
I remember the amateurs when I was a kid was that way.
Yeah.
And then for the same reason, they made it enter once.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the way it is now. But anyway, yeah.
What was it like rodeoing with the Lion?
It was good.
Like you're tough enough, I feel like, and I bet you were back then, because I always kind of thought of it as almost the intimidation era.
Yeah.
There was a certain amount of intimidation that was kind of in that era because that was kind of the way that era was. It was, it was a tough era.
Right.
Or tough men, and it was tough times. And it seemed like it was almost, well, if you're tough enough that you can handle this, then you're going to be tough enough to win with. It was almost like they almost put you through the test. It seemed like to see if you were tough enough.
Yeah. So
is that close?
Yeah. So we went, so I'm, just like I said, I'm just a green kid, but I knew what I was doing, what I was capable of doing. So I went out there to California, drove out there to Lodi, California. That's where he lived. Had a little single wide trailer house when I moved there. He wouldn't let nobody stay in it. It was a dump. It really was. He was in the process of getting ready to build a new house. But anyway, so we get there and been there for, I probably just got there and he tells me, he says, we're going to rope in the morning at 8:00. Okay, cool. So I'm over here, got my little room and stuff. And so I come rolling out at 8:00 in the morning. He's in the arena steers wrap. He's loping around and he goes, it's 8:00. Where you at? I said, I'm coming. He goes, no, I said, we're roping at 8:00. That means we're going to rope at 8:00. I said, got it. Won't happen again.
Yeah.
And so he says, I got time. I got stuff to do. I don't have time to be messing around. I'm like, okay, gotcha. So, he was a stickler he had a schedule and he was I was going to rope from 8 to 10, and then he had something else to do. If he wanted to rope again later, we could rope again later. But he had stuff he wanted to do, and he was a professional at his. You know, he treated this like I guess everybody else should treat it like okay, and so that's kind of got the way I've grown up and taught. So when I try to do that a little bit that way, but I kind of slack off some, but try to. And like you said, it was a tougher era back then, you know, like, because he's always telling me, you just got to stay within 30 feet of me. Just stay within 30 feet if you can. Because he'd just go like gangbusters. He was good. He was fun to travel with. You know, he was always had something up. And when you was roping, he might rope like crap all week, you know. And you'd say something to him. He says, I'm working on something. Don't worry about it. I'll catch. I'm going to catch. I'm like, okay. So I never worried about it. Never worried about him because he was on top of his game.
He's always working at it.
Always trying to be better and get better and doing this, pushing, wanted you to do this, do that.
He seemed like he really studied it. You know, I heard a lot of good quotes that he had said. Yeah, and so he was kind of the godfather of the era. And it seemed like that he had a lot of wisdom and that winning mentality as well.
Yeah, he was a leader of the whole deal, and so he set the bar. But then he kept studying because he wanted to be better. He see kids coming up, you know. I need to try this. I need to work on this. I need to do that. So he was a student of the game also. And yeah, but he was tough. He was hard on you. It wasn't nothing easy, but yeah. You know, a lot of people, I don't know, a lot of guys could take it. A lot of them couldn't take it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet a lot of them fold.
You know, he was good to me. He was hard on me, which I'm okay with it. But, you know, I hear people always say, well, I don't like him. Why? Well, he wouldn't speak to me. He didn't speak. I said, did you speak to him? No. I'm like, okay. Speak to him. He'll talk to you. I mean, he will. He'll talk to anybody.
What do you think it was about you that made you tough enough that you could handle it?
You know, I just kind of, I really don't know. I think I just got that way, you know. I mean, I just kind of, okay, I had a mindset, this is what I want to do, and I'm going this way, you know, and just a kid from Oklahoma trying to work up the ladder, and I thought, you know, I just want to be better and better. So I always told him, I said, my goal in life is to make that guy quit roping, that he can't beat me. I want to be that good that he can't beat me. So I want to make him quit.
Beat him down. I want to beat him. Beat him so hard he wants to quit.
And Leo was that way.
Yeah.
Leo was that way. He loved that about it, you know. You know, and so he'd always pick somebody. He loved picking a team. All right, we're going to beat that team. We're going to beat Doyle and Walt, whatever. We're going to beat D and Mike. We're going to beat them. Don't let them beat us. Well, they might have been 15 seconds. You know? I mean, we beat them on 14-9. I said, we're not that, you know, but that's just the way he was.
Like a title fight.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, pretty much. And it was fun. It was kind of a game to him.
Yeah.
And,
I got to rope him when I was a little kid. He came to my house one time and tried a horse. And, you know, we lived in Canby, so we had a lot of people in and out a lot. And he came and he was friends with a guy down the street that had a Western shop. And I loved him. But my dad was a hard man. He was real hard. And my dad, I think, prided the fact that he's like, I'm going to be so hard on you that no one will be as hard on you as I am. So you'll be able to handle anything.
Right.
And I remember roping with him one day with Leo. I never roped better in my life. So I kind of seen what he said because I could take a little bit because he would jaw. He would he'd try to get in your head. And
he was a mind game.
My dad was really good at kind of preparing me for that a little bit.
Right.
And at the end of the practice session, we were buds. He'd rub the top of my head. And I couldn't have been 11 years old,
right.
You know, and it was kind of when he'd jaw at something like, you ever seen somebody rope one that fast?
Yeah.
And my dad was known for crossfire. And but he'd rope him after the header.
Right.
And I said, honestly, I didn't know if my horse was going to wear out before you threw. And then he loved that.
Yeah.
You know, he'd laugh, and it was almost like, can you take it? Can you take it? And then I was able to.
Right.
And I remember I looked forward to him coming to the house all the time.
Yeah.
But I remember he'd get in your head but I enjoyed it. It was something that was familiar to me, I guess, from, stuff my dad was prepared for.
But if he could ever get on your head, if he ever got in your side of your head, he had you, because he was like, he loved it. But just like you said, if you joke back with him, he liked that.
Yeah.
He liked that part of it.
Ropers, are you ready to step up your game? My online course, The Basics of Roping, is built for beginners, but packed with tools to help ropers of all levels sharpen their skills. With over 2 hours of instruction, frame-by-frame swing breakdowns, when to turn your hand over to keep your loop open, when and where to let go of your rope so you can get the horns in the middle of that loop, over 15 dummy drills to simulate real-life runs, you'll have everything you need to improve. Go to charliecrawford.training and follow the link under the course tab to get started today.
When you guys struggled, what was some of the things that you felt like got you back in the game again? Because it's not like back then there's a lot of practice sessions, I would probably say, from one rodeo to the next.
Well, so I tell everybody, so like you said, when you're rodeoing, you're going to 130 rodeos, you don't have a lot of time to practice. So, if you break the barrier, train your horse. He's always big at, if you don't have something, if you're not going to win, get something out of your run, train your horse. Get right. If you miss, if we haven't been winning, take another swing, catch one, build your confidence. Always working on your confidence. Work on the positive. Get rid of all the negative stuff in your life. Just go for positive and stay focused. And so I worked on that a lot, still don't let your mind get you so
I remember
much.
one of the things you had talked about back then that carried through even to today was when you guys were able to keep everything in order with score, ride, and rope.
Yeah.
It was something Tyler had talked about, something you had talked about all the time. And I remember reading articles about you guys all the time, whenever it got complicated or things weren't in line, keeping those three things in order.
Yeah.
And that is such a key to setting up a successful run.
Yeah. They just kind of go back to fundamentals a little bit. I try to tell the guys, it's so fast now that it's hard to do, but still you got to score, ride, rope, goes in that order, and catch one. There's a few guys I talk to all the time. I'm like, hey, you need to catch. If you catch, you got a chance to win something. But, it's just stay with your basic fundamentals. And that's what I always told somebody when we was rodeoing, whoever comes back the quickest has the less downtime. So if you're fundamentally sound, you can come back. Just go to your fundamentals. I talked to Patrick.
That's a good one.
I talked about Patrick. When Patrick and I roped, he goes, I'm not ever getting in a slump. I'm like, oh, you will. Promise, you will. You're rodeoing day to day to day. You're going to get in a slump.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're fundamentally sound, okay, think about it, what we're doing, go back to your fundamentals, catch one. If you have to sacrifice one, do it. Catch. What's that do? Boost the ego, boost the confidence. Here we go. You're back on. But if you keep throwing and missing, now you're beat down. And so to me, I see all these guys because I watch Cowboy Channel, I watch all the rodeos, and I'm like, how can they miss so many and it don't bother them? And then they go back tomorrow and, might be next week they catch and win first for a month, but then they might go again and miss 10 in a row. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
There's no way I could go do it without just being, oh my gosh, basket case.
Yeah.
But it's a different generation, different style of roping and stuff. But yeah, but back then it's like if you're fundamentally sound, just go back to fundamentals, score, ride, rope, right horn, left horn, whatever, catch them and build it back. And then you just like, okay, let's win fourth. We'll just win fourth tonight. And, and then win something tomorrow. And then bam, you got a good one. You just turn yourself loose again. And so
when you were winning those world titles in the 80s, was there sponsors back then? Like was things getting easier traveling wise, or was it?
No, not really.
You just had to win to keep doing it.
So I was like, all right, let's talk about that a little bit. Who actually wrote for a living? Let's talk. Who actually wrote for a living?
That's a real interesting perspective.
Clay O'Brien Cooper, Jake Barnes, myself, Bob Harris, probably Richie, few of them guys before they got all the sponsors,
Leo. Put Leo in there.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Leo. I mean, the old generation,
Mm-hmm.
they all wrote they didn't have sponsors,
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, too, you guys were roping in the 70s, if I remember this correctly, for a quarter of the money.
Yeah.
And then it got up to half.
Yeah, sometimes.
Maybe 80s, 90s, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. It wasn't
And then
always equal money.
Never got equal money until maybe 2000s.
Yeah, maybe
something
somewhere
like that
right in there. Yeah.
So it took a long time. When we were talking about roping for a living, you guys are roping for a quarter of the money that everyone else is in rodeo.
Right. So
Yeah.
just, just put that in perspective
Mm-hmm.
where, go to, you can just take the NFR, day monies were paying not
What were
much.
what were they in the 80s? Remember?
I think I won $10,000 in my first NFR.
What was the truck back then?
Probably 20,000.
Was it?
Probably
Was it still back then?
Yeah. Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective when you think of guys that roped for a living. Mm-hmm.
I mean, so myself.
The pressure and that, because it's not like you get, you got someone else's credit card or a fuel sponsor. It's not like you had someone's credit card where they use it to pay their fees. If you don't win, there's no gas money that gets put in the gas. There's no fees that gets go to the next one.
Right.
Pressure.
Yeah. So I'm going to just about there. Everything I got in Llano, Texas was paid with a nylon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a few horses and sold a few horses and did lessons, but it all went through one deal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Bob Harris was that way. I'm sure Clay and Jake was that way for a long time till they got big sponsors, And,
It was hard back then.
It all looks good. I don't know what everybody's got, but they got patches on. I told the other day, I told Coleman he's going to get bigger because he ain't got enough room for no more patches.
Start putting them on his pants.
Yeah. But yeah, so it always looks good from the outside. How good is it? How good is it? It looks good, and I'm not being negative about it. I'm just
You were in the middle of it, so you knew exactly what it was like.
So
chasing a lot of fame, it seemed like, and then you better love it.
Yeah,
you better love doing it.
I'm going to say I was 1 or 2 steers away from 5 or 6 gold balls.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Yeah. Bob Hurley beat Rich and I one year at the finals. On the last year, he had to win the day money. And he did.
Mm-hmm.
I waved it off on, my rope hung on a horn for Clay to win a world's championship. Bob missed one for me to win a championship.
Yeah, I remember you were always right there in the runnings,
And
all the way in the 90s, it felt like,
so
too.
it was just, it was good, though. I wasn't living on that, but it's just, if you look back, how many times.
Well, it's so fun now to think about. What I love is I love going down the history of it because, like you say, you guys were one of the few guys who wrote for a living. What is some of the things that you guys did from one rodeo to the next? Because it's not like you guys sit there and stare at your phones. You guys rodeo with that internet. So what are some of the things you did on the way to rodeos? Cards?
Yeah, we played cards. So, when I played
Mike Macy asked if you got any better. Yeah, he asked if you got any better at playing cards since you retired or not.
Mike Macy I rodeoed for a couple of years with him, and he was so fun to play with because he was like drive. He drove with his knees. He'd get up there and he put it up there and he'd drive with his knees. We just play solitaire. We play, I think we played Fort Worth Gin. We either played Fort Worth Gin or just Gin, one of the two, and he drove with his knees and he just played and he goes, okay, it's your turn to drive. Shit, I can't. He goes, okay, let me drive. Because I couldn't do it. I was like, oh, gosh, dude, how do you do it? And he goes, just put your knees and hold it and just, you're good. I'm like, no, I can't. So
people talk about multitasking. They have no idea what it's like to drive a 5-speed and play cards and drive with your legs.
No, not at all.
Drink coffee and try to find your Rand McNally nap so you don't miss your turn.
Yeah, some kids, is when I'd take some kids with me and go rodeo and I was like, hey, get the map and let's look where we're going to go. And then, I knew where I was going, but I was like, well, here, let me get it on my phone. I said, no, get the map. And I was like, well, what's this red line? What's this line? What's these there? It's like, oh my goodness. We're going to have a history lesson here. You're going to have to learn to read the map,
Yeah, it's fun though.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah.
Laughing at them.
Yeah, it's a fun era.
So, but yeah, it was good.
Because to pass the time, you had to get creative. You had to have conversations.
Yeah, you had to talk. play cards.
Because your guys' era was some of the best storytellers.
Oh, yeah.
I loved listening to Bob Harris. When you guys started roping together, I remember you guys came up to the Northwest a couple times, and I was on my permit and just getting my card, and I watched you two go at, joke back and forth and stuff. And I made it a point that I was never going to talk around you two, other than "Hello, sir, how are you?" Because you guys could annihilate somebody. And you guys were going to have to guess how dumb I was, because I knew if I opened my mouth, you're going to find out. And so I remember, I think we stuck one of our best guys at the time, which was Wade Wheatley. He was our best roper. He was our best shit talker. And Bob could just annihilate him.
Yeah. He was good at it.
He was real good.
Yeah, he was.
So when did you guys start roping? Was it shortly after you and Leo?
No. I roped with Monty Joe a little bit. I roped with who else? I mean, that's the other day I was trying to think of all I roped with. I roped a lot of them, and me and Bob roped a little bit, and then we was close, So, and I talked to Popeye a lot, and he goes, and that's how I got to rope with Bob. He goes, man, I like the way Bob Harris ropes. He's like you was talking about earlier, smooth,
so smooth.
No, I mean this.
Never looked like he was in a hurry. He was always ahead of everything, and just the prettiest swing.
Yeah, he wasn't probably the fastest guy in the world, but he didn't hardly ever miss.
And no glove, correct?
Yeah, no glove.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so to me that was big to me not to miss, because I loved that, because I figured I could spin them fast enough. He catch 2 feet, we'd win, and. Me and Bob was close a couple of times before we did win a championship.
91 is won the world?
Yes.
And now we're into Vegas.
Yeah.
Went from Oklahoma City now to Vegas.
Yeah.
Smaller arena.
Smaller, yeah.
And then you cracked out the chinks back then.
Yeah.
What was the chinks?
We was at Cowboy Christmas one day and just coming through there, and one of them guys, it was just a bet that, I bet you won't wear those. I said, you give those to me, I'll wear them. He goes, I'll give them to you. I said, I can't even remember who the guy was in. So I just strapped him on that night and wore him, and there's like, oh my God, Tallman went nuts.
Mm-hmm, he did.
And so then a couple of nights later, I changed, went to a different pair, and then, it's just.
Well, I remembered back then, because we were little roping clubs when I was a little kid, and guys started competing with them. It kind of started a lot of things where it was kind of one of those cool, and the Cowboys that wore them all the time anyway. But you started seeing ropers actually wearing them and competing. It was pretty funny.
And then so I had to roper shap one time, because I was out there, and I was, if you're rodeoing by yourself, or you're, just a single guy and kid, just a big old kid, and get rubber on your pants. I'm like, man, I can't get this off. I'm like, man, I got to figure out something. And so I was over there. I was in Buckeye, Arizona, and this guy had a Western little saddle shop over there. And I'm like, hey, I need this deal to go here, and I want to strap under here, and what's over here. And that way I won't get my pants dirty. He goes, I got to build one. So he built me one, and then some guys seen it, and they wanted to market it a little bit. It didn't really take off, but it was something different, know. And
I remember I was starting to hear a lot about your horses. You had some running horses, and I remember some beautiful horses. What were some of the horses that kind of helped you through to kind of get started in the 80s, 90s, and through your career?
So I started out on a yellow horse called Doc that I bought from Gary Jacobs. He was just a great horse. He was, and I'd always seen him. I hung out with Bill Pogue and Charles over there when I was in Durant, and I'd go to Ringland, Oklahoma, and rope with Charles and Bill. He would mentor a little bit and stuff, and so I'd go rope with them, and I'd seen this guy named Gary Jacobs had this Palomino horse. I said, man, I want that horse. And he said, I don't think you'll sell him. And so we tried buying him a couple times. He would never sell him. And one day Bill called me. He goes, hey, Gary's going to sell you that horse. Let's go. I said, okay. So we went to Vernon, Texas, run 4 or 5 steers on him. I gave $5,000 for him in 1979.
Mm-hmm.
So it was on a Friday, I think. I go to a jackpot on Saturday. I won $4,900.
And that's a big jackpot then back then.
I mean, I might have won everything they had.
Yeah.
But I won $4,900.
Got him paid for.
Yeah. And so that's a horse I rodeoed on all that whole year. And then, like I said, then I kind of fried him. You just can imagine up and down and everywhere. And so I had to buy another horse. I bought another one, and I didn't buy I seen what I wanted, and I thought, go this way. I should have. I think my career would have been different if I'd have bought the first one I seen. I went a little bit cheaper and
tried to get by.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. And I kind of went different. I mean, my horses were never really big horses, and I went bigger, and I didn't rope very good. And so I struggled that year in 81. I kind of struggled. Still made the finals, but
because you needed those bigger horses in one perspective, because your steers were 600, 700 pounds, right? And
right.
Bigger horns, bigger stride, stuff like that. A little one just get drugged down the pin,
yeah,
right?
a little bit, yeah. But I didn't rope real good on them. So I got my yellow horse back the next year and rode him, and then I tried to go stay a little bit smaller and stuff. And
you had a very small loop, I remember.
Started with small.
Yeah.
Started small. Yeah.
And it always fascinated me how well you were able to use it because of how big the horns were.
Right.
You look at the guys now, I mean, they got a pretty good sized loop, and yours was real small, and it was fascinating to me because the horns were so big. What was the small loop? Just the feel? Just learn how to make it work?
I could get it around faster and get my power a little bit faster, and I tried the big loops. And when I learned to rope, I used a great big loop. And then I just kept tweaking, and it just felt better the smaller I got. And then I wanted to be more precise, but they always told me you run more cattle through a big gate than you could a small, and just had to close it faster.
Well, I also remember back then too, people talking about how much better you could handle a steer with the short rope.
Yeah. So I'd try to get them and pick their heads up,
Paul Petska was really good at that too.
So I say, okay, so we'll go here. So if you're a little further to the left, turn some faster, right? So I was a little bit further to the left than the mainstream guys. I started that, and I roped coming in where they'd go all the way to them. One more, two more, like that, where I always had my timing was coming to them. Rope when I got there, my horse would be stepping, so they'd turn that much faster. And I was so ahead of game. Then, here comes Jake, and then here comes Speedy, and they all just took it a little bit further. And now these guys, they've took it to another level. But when I started, they was in behind
still too far behind them.
Stop, and still today, if you rope big steers, you can't get out of here because the steer have advantage and they will drag you down the pin. So you had to get a hold of them, get them broke down, and pull them back over themselves a little bit. But still, I was a little bit wider.
You were gaining some strength with angles.
Yes,
to be faster and more consistent.
A little more speed, and then just slowed them down out there for them. So
now talk about your reaching with that smaller loop.
So I figured it out. When I reached, I was about a coil away. I was about as far as I could go with it. When I feed it, I'd just feed a coil into it. And so when you feed a coil into it, so it sticks a backswing into your loop real quick. So when you feed it into it, you got to let her go.
Get ready to go.
Yeah, you can't when you feed that coil into it, you got to send it. And, it just happened one day, and then it's like, okay, hell, it worked. Let's try it again tomorrow. And so it just one thing after another.
Because reaching started evolving because of the fact that just like everything, it starts evolving and things get faster.
Yeah.
So that's when people started using more line, correct?
Yeah. It's, then Jake took it a little bit, and he still didn't reach a lot, but a little bit. And then when Speedy came along, he took it all. He took off with it.
What was it like competing against Jake and Clay? Because that was such a team back in the day and you guys were always right there with them. You guys seemed like you and Bobby Hurley and Charles Pogue and Jake Barnes of the 90s. You guys were all always right there in the mix of it every year.
So they were the team to beat. That's what you set out to do, is to beat. If you beat them, you probably had a good chance. You want to be close. And they lived on right side by side, so arenas between them, and they roped every day, 100 steers a day.
100 steers a day, I remember hearing.
Yeah. So they'd go rope and rope and rope. So they were hard to beat.
They were very consistent, wasn't they?
Yeah, they didn't
The
mess up
consistency.
very much. You know, they knew where they were in the arena. You know, if Jake went a little bit further, Clay would throw a little bit faster. Jake spun one real fast. Clay would just make sure he caught 2 feet. They didn't make many mistakes.
Yeah.
Clay sure didn't make many mistakes.
It seemed like there was a lot of horse flesh back then that really stood out. Like you could really see a good horse back then. You know, we talked about Charles Pogan, Scooter. You know, I always loved Bobby Hurley's horses. The yellow ones he started off with, then Spiff, Steve Purcella's horse, Butterbean, you know, some of the ones you had. Didn't you have one maybe called Flat Tire or Bear Tire or something?
No, I had some. I had a Bay Mare. I got a Bay Mare's when I won the world with Bob. I bought from Ricky Melman.
What was that one's name?
Big Bertha.
Big Bertha.
Yeah, she wasn't super fast, but she scored really good. You know, and I tell everybody it don't really matter how they score, as long as they do the same thing. If they do the same thing every time, I'll figure out how to leave. You know, I mean, my yellow horse.
That's interesting.
My yellow horse
Interesting
hopped
perspective.
every time.
But you knew it.
You know what I mean? Back in there and you go, he's going to go like that. You just go earlier. He's going to do it 99 out of 90, 99 out of 100 times.
That's one thing I remembered watching you was you could sit on the fence and watch one go and get on him and just weld the barrier out. And I remember you got on a couple of mine and every time would just hit the barrier. And I'm like, I remember watching you get on mine and I'm like, I didn't even know that horse was that good. But how good of a jockey you were. Because like I say, you've sat and you've seen so many different things. The start is so important, sets up the run, and you were able, you were one of the guys that I thought of that was consistently knocking that barrier back.
Yeah, so that's what I tell everybody too is you got to score good because that's when the time starts, and you got to face because that's when it stops.
Mm-hmm.
In between, there's a lot of stuff can happen, but you got to start and you got to stop. So I watched a lot. I rode a lot of horses when I was young. You know, I mean, get on this horse, get on that horse, get on this horse, and just got a feel for it. And so then I'd watch you ride, watch Steve Purcell, watch Charles, Ramon Figueroa, Mark Arnold. I watch all them guys ride, and watch all their horses, how they scored, how they didn't score. So, okay,
Had a game.
If I need to borrow one, I'm going to find a horse and I'll watch you score, however they scored. Okay. I'm going to score maybe just a little bit different and just get a little feel for it. And I'm going to have to ride him once, probably. So I'm going to steal me a ride on him right here. Kind of could get by a lot. I could get by a lot of horses.
Yeah. No, I remembered it. It was phenomenal because I never was good at that. There's a few guys that I could ride behind, but your ability to do it on so many different ones was phenomenal. What was some of the best horses that you owned through the 90s, and what was some of the best horses you rode during the 90s?
I don't know when they were, but I rode Charles's horse a little bit.
Did you get to ride Scooter?
I did. I was this close of owning Scooter because Bill found him over there and told Charles, he said, all right, you going to buy this horse? He said, he was cheap. I mean, back then he was pretty cheap. And Charles said, okay. Bill called me and goes, hey, if Charles don't pay me today, you can have him. I said, okay. So he called me back. He said, Charles, give me some money. So I said, okay, perfect. But he was fantastic, as everybody knows. And then
did you get to ride him?
I did. I rode him.
What did that feel like?
Stealing.
Yeah.
I mean, he scored so good and just fly and then just melt off. And he was excellent. I mean,
and it was every time, wasn't it?
Every time. Scored every time. And then Ramon Figueroa had a horse called Rebel that Mark Arnold bought that came out of Oklahoma that I should have bought and I didn't. Was just like him. Score and run and face. And he was really good. And then I rode in California a lot when we'd go out there. Wheatley had a stud, Frosty Top. I rode him a lot. He was really good. So I'll tell you a story about Frosty Top. So with Wheatley, he always tell you, and he was a stud. He goes, he was the best minded horse in the world. You just not pay attention to nothing. He goes, he won't even look at a mare. I'm telling you, he will not look at a mare. And I just thought it was, we're laughing. So he's got him tied up over there in Santa Maria one day, and he's just tied up. I mean, he just tied him in between them. I didn't do it, but he was tied up there by all them horses. And Dale Mann, the calf roper over there, had a mare, tied him right beside him. It ain't 2 minutes over us. He's just mounted up. Oh, they got into an argument over there. And so my smart ass come walking by there, and I was like, I'm just going to have one thing to sell you boys. And they look at me, and they're bold up. I said, oh, Frosty never looked. I was watching the whole time. He turned, and he did not look at her. He would not look. Because that was Wheatley's favorite saying. He won't look at a mare. He won't look at her. And I told him, I walked by him. I'm like, he didn't look, boys. He wasn't looking. I know he wasn't. And they kind of chuckled and went off that they see how that was. He was good. And then I bought a horse from Wayne Shaw. What the heck do we call him? Big ball face, Sorrel. Yeah. Right. Brandy.
I thought it was Brandy.
Yeah, Brandy. He was a good horse, man. He would stand there and score, and he was big. He was the only big horse I really got along with, but he run real short and you just had to be careful with him because Shaw, when he roped, he'd downstream him, and so if he ever got a chance, he'd want to downstream him, but he would come back, but he was an excellent horse too. But and Kevin Stewart ride him and break the barrier every time he rode him. He said he wouldn't even, he just back in there and score. And I mean, he wouldn't leave till you let him go. And Kevin would get on him and he'd smoke through the barrier. And I'm like, he goes, he won't stand still. I mean, he rode it 2 or 3 times, broke the barrier every time. We'd laugh. And then I raised, I had Megazord. He was one of my favorite, Jackie and I raised him from a baby. And so he was.
What did you breed him to?
He was out of a horse called Have Your Cash, with a Dash for Cash horse, and a horse called Jet Toro, an Easy Jet stud.
So he's double bred.
Yeah, he was straight run. I love that. Somebody's asking me about that. They go like, I like the cow bred and race horse. I'm like, for a head horse, I could care less. We got him cow. I want to run. I'm going to train him. I'm going to train him. I'm not going to buy him off the track. I'm going to get him here, and I'm going to train him to be a rope horse, and I'm going to show him what a cow is. And he'll chase. He's trained. He's bred to run. So he sees something running, I'm going to run after it. And then I'm going to guide him. I want to guide. And I rode him on Ace every time. Half
every
CC.
time.
I never practiced with him without Ace. And I never took him anywhere without a half CC.
Just knocked out a little bit of that.
Just a little bit. And I tried him a couple of times, but I liked it, and it just kind of smoothed him out just a touch, and he was.
So you raised him. So how did you kind of get him started? Who did you have someone ride him as a 2 and 3 year old? Things like that.
I think Bo McBride rode him a little bit at the start, and then I let Darren Stoner, my brother-in-law, rode him for a little bit, and then Paul Pesca finished him for me.
Because I remember he really did kind of recharge a lot of what you had going on. And it fit. Yeah. He would eat him alive.
He was so fast. I mean, so fast. Just stand still and he'd turn off and you could go out. You didn't have to go at him. I mean, just reach out because he was rolling so fast. Horns were always coming to you.
You're
always just straight up made it easy.
And then you got a chance to rope with Cleo for a little bit as well, Clay Cooper.
Yeah. Clay and I roped a couple of times. We just thought we was going to.
You guys were always close.
You know what? We thought we was just going to set the world afire. Everybody thought Bowen, because,
And you both have, remember when you guys roped too, you go at the finals, you both have buckskin horses at the time. What was that horse?
That was a horse belonged to Popeye that came from Johnny Phillips.
That was a cool horse too.
He was a nice horse. He wasn't very big. He was about 14'3". He's a little horse.
Yeah.
And he was good.
I thought the buckskin teams were going to, and you guys were always close too.
Yeah. It just, everybody thought we was just going to do so good, and our expectations were so high, and we just never did. Reach the top. Was close, but we never did. I had a picture of me and Clay and Bob. I think it might have just been me and Clay and Bob at the Cow Palace one year, sitting it was probably in the rodeo office somewhere. It was, somebody snapped a picture of us. You could tell it was up to no good. I mean, we was plotting against somebody, I'm sure. But you could just see the looks on our faces, but I can't find it. I've been looking for that picture for a while.
What was some of the funnest buddy teams that you had? because a lot of times back then, buddy teams was important because, like you say, you're trying to make a living, getting from one road to the next, going to that many of them. You probably buddied with quite a bit. What were some of the funnest buddy teams you had?
Well, I buddied with Macy and Jeff Madeline a lot. We buddied with them, and I buddied with Rich and whoever Rich roped with. He wasn't roping with Speed then. He might have been roping with Trey Pope for a little bit there when he first started, or Charles, and just we buddied with a lot of guys. Leo and I didn't buddy with a whole lot. I mean, he buddied with Gerald a little bit, but yeah, it was fun. So,
what was some of the fun stuff back then? Because
So,
the conversations and just the stories you guys would tell was just, I loved it when I was a young kid when you guys would get around because it was almost like stand-up comedy, or just stories. I mean, you guys were so good at telling stories, and it would just draw such a big group.
I hadn't been around HP very much. I mean, very little. He was kind of always off to doing his own things, but we was going to Walla Walla and Owensburg, I think. Aren't they the same time? Yeah. So we went to Walla Walla. We flew. We flew a lot. So we probably sent horses somewhere, and we flew to Walla Walla. So HP was with me, and Leo and Gerald was all up there in HP. He is back there. HP is HP, man. Hey, dude, what's up? He's the coolest of all.
He was cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's the mustache come from HP. I mean, that's who I kind of wanted to be like. And so, yeah, I just liked him. And then the best at the Cowpaws one day, I was roping with Clay. We're at the Cowpaws, and we're walking down the arena and doing something, and he's walking along there, and so I was walking along, so my rope, inside foot, and he goes, one more time, I'm going to cut your rope. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. So I roping. He just pulls his knife and cuts my rope. Just cuts it right in half. I'm like, dude, this is all I got. He goes, I told you not to do it. So I had to go borrow a rope. Yeah, I've had to borrow a rope several times in my career. Once at Pueblo, you can ask Dick and JD. They thought, especially Dick, he thought it was the funniest. I was having a meltdown at Pueblo one year, and freaking just grabbed my ropes and I slung them over the wall at Pueblo. It was on my first one. I had to run a second one. I had a rope. I had to go. I said, Dick, I need to borrow a rope. Because where's yours? I said, throw them away. So, yeah. So I've done that a couple of times.
And then you and Rich roped together for a few years as well.
Yeah, Rich and I roped together. Rich and I
had some videos together.
Yeah, we did some videos together and did some stuff. Rich and I are best friends, and we've been through all kinds of stuff together. I love him to death, but everybody knows Rich. So Bob Harris loves to torture him. He's got more nicknames than anybody. Barnyard, Barney. Yeah. So, Rich and I go back a long ways.
Did you kind of crack him out a little bit, or was he already out there? I just remember when you started rope with him, I remember his name started really getting some traction.
I didn't crack him out. I think he cracked, I'm trying to think who he roped with. Maybe, I'm not sure if he didn't rope with Charles just a little bit out there, maybe. Or who did he rope with first? Maybe Trey Pope just for a little bit. And then that, I met Rich in Stephenville, Texas, first place I seen him, out here at a little old indoor arena. They had some dairy. They had some plastic horn Holsteins they were roping. And he was heading.
Domestics.
And he was heading. And I was heeling. We won the rope, and then we turned around and had another one. And I headed for him, and we won it. So we won 2 ropings that day. Well, I was heeling once, and he was heeling once. So that's kind of how I met him. And then, he come down there and hung out with Jack and Jackie Stevenson, and kind of through that bunch. Yeah,
Then he ended up moving to Llano.
He moved to Llano. He lived with Jackie and I for a while, and then he bought that place over there where Speedy lived, and then he's done well.
Yeah, he's got a beautiful place now.
Yeah, and then Rube, he was one of my he's one of my favorites.
Because he lived in Llano there for a spell too.
Yeah, he did. So we was rodeoing was at Houston one year, and like you said, it was before it was back to back and all that stuff. So he was at the first, and he's down there just kind of hanging out. He's roping with Corey Kuntz. And I was up, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm up. I'm up here tonight." And then 2 weeks later, I got to run another one. I'm like, what are you going to do? Well, I don't know. I'm just going to kind of hang out, I guess. I said, well, it's 4 hours to Lano. We're going to go out. We'll go rope and hang out. And he goes, okay. So Rube, he's come, never left either.
Yeah.
And so he hung out with me, and that's what everybody did, I mean, that was kind of the hang out there. And then he bought a little place in Lano. And
right by you.
Yeah. So we was all there.
Because it seemed like the late 90s, early 2000s that Lano was the spot because it was so centrally located. Obviously, Cooper's Barbecue, too.
Yeah.
But, it was such between you and Speedy and Tyler and, it seemed like, and Rube, that was where everyone kind of came to stay because you were able to rope. There's so many things to do. And you were within San Angelo, Austin, Houston.
Yeah, just close.
The George Strait, things like that. Everything was pretty close.
Yeah, it was good.
That was a fun time.
Fun time.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. Like I said, it's small enough town. You knew everybody. You could get somewhere. It's a good place to eat. And then you could be anywhere in 2 hours.
Yeah. And then you and Tyler Magnus wrote for quite a while as well.
We did. Yeah, we did. We're good friends. And so it worked out. I mean, I've had a great career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't.
Well, Tyler's one of the guys that kind of got me my start. And so that's when I got to know you when I would be when I was working for him, and I got to know you a lot more. And, and then also too was, just the amount of knowledge, the wisdom, and the horsemanship. And you guys were getting so good at the time, learning how to use horses to be able to make those runs. And, when I was at that age, I roped good and I rode good, but I didn't know how to win.
Right.
And it seems like if that was the place you went to where if you wanted to learn how to get to that level because of the knowledge basically just in that Lano area.
I think Luke Brown's one of them too, because he come and hung out with Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
And after he stayed there for a while, it was like, bam, the lights came on and he started winning. And I mean, Tyler was kind of the first with the horsemanship stuff, like if you see him, he's always this, that, and just picking here and sticking here and this stuff. And so he kind of made it. And then it just kind of, everybody started following, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that. And so it's kind of horsemanship has got better. The horses have got so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Back then it was, okay, get it, put a bridle on, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
If he ain't doing something, tie his head down shorter. And so they've got broker and better, fat. I wouldn't know if they're any faster, but they're broker, that's for sure.
How hard was it throughout that whole career, making it, 26 times the NFR and team roping? How hard was it to fit in steer roping?
That's where Bob and I came along, because he tripped steers. And so it was pretty easy, if we didn't want to go somewhere or this rodeo had tripping, we just, okay, we'll go here. A little less rodeo for the team roping, but had tripping. And so when I started tripping, I started in 87. That's when my first year tripping was. And so it was.
Because you talked about the ledge, being around you quite a bit.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, the ledge. Yeah, I seen him yesterday. Yeah, he's a dandy. He's a good friend of mine, too. So kind of got me started on it. I said, hey, I want to trip. Okay, so I tripped a little bit along the way, but then when I decided I wanted to, he kind of tweaked me a little bit. So I never was that great, but I could get by.
Well, you handled the rope so good, and I would say anybody that could just follow him and watch, he was just so ahead of his time, wasn't he? With what he did.
I mean, 19 gold buckles. That's what somebody said the other day. Well, he wouldn't have had that many if Sean Burchett would have stayed around longer. And I'm like, yeah, he probably had 17. Yeah, but no, he was, that's another deal. Was 1 year there was tripping. I was doing pretty good. And it was about Weatherford time. I had him by about $15,000 early in the, in the deal. And I'm like, and I was always talking crap to him anyway. I'm like, hey, you see these taillights? Look at them. They're flashing. You're not going to see them here in a minute. He just shook his head and laughed. We go to Cheyenne, and by the time we got to Deadwood, I didn't know which way he had went. Yeah, he was phenomenal at that event.
Yeah.
It's like everybody talked to well, man, this happened, that happened. Well, he's seen everything in the world. He's done, we team rope, so not a whole lot that we see. There's nothing really new that we haven't seen already. That's the way he is in tripping, if something happens. He's already seen it, so he's already a step ahead of us. He don't have to think about it. He just goes, does it. And so
His mechanics were so well, wasn't
yeah, man, he roped sharp and he's freaking tying. He's a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody, if you get close to him, he's really big. His hands are big fingers, he's a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And then you had one of the best busting horses as well.
Yeah, I had Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
He was really nice. You know, he came along right there in my deal, and he was really good, and he was really pretty to look at.
Yeah.
And everybody loved him. You know, buckskin, really, he was fun.
Did you ever get to head much on him as well?
I never headed in. I mean, I headed a couple of times, but he was way ahead of the game in that. So I heeled some on him. He was decent to heel on.
Got it.
But
just kept him in the busting.
Yeah, I didn't ever head much on him, and so I had some great, good times with him, and so. But yeah, one time was out there when we lived north of town. Out there, I had Kathy and Jerry lived there north of town there, and so we had that little arena there. I had some steers. Bart Freeman's over the hill over there, and this lady, I can't even remember what their names were. I go there. She had some red Angus cows, and she called me. She goes, "One of your bulls are in with my cows." I said, "Ma'am, I have no bulls." She goes, "Yes, you have one of your bulls over here." I said, "I got some roping steers." "Well, your bull is over here with my cows." I'm like, "Okay, I'll be there." And I'm headed to Del Rio to the tripping. And she's like, "I got to get him out of my pasture, get him out." I said, okay, I'm get him out. So Jackie, she's like, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to go over here. I'm going to get that steer, put him in the arena." I had Dutch saddled up because I usually just had a 1-horse trailer and I just had him saddled because that's the way we went. So I just jogged over there and I was going to drive the steer back. No big deal. So Bart comes by and he goes, "You need some help?" I said, "No, I got it. I'm going to drive him back." So, I mean, you can imagine, got one steer, 20 head of cows. So I got him peeled off, driving along. They'll go a little ways. And he's like, "Go back." So he circles back. I'm like, "Okay, go back." About the third time, I said, "This has had enough." So I stuck it on him right there and jerked him down on the grass and drug him. It was probably a quarter of a mile back to the arena over there. It was in a spring and the grass was green and slick, and I just slid him across there to high low, pulled him into the arena, cut my rope, loosened him up, gave him a drink of water, stuck him in the trailer, went to Del Rio and won the tripping.
Did some real cowboy stuff before the cowboy event.
Yeah. But
That's
yeah,
funny.
he was a super horse. He was nice.
Yeah. He was legendary. He was everyone, you talk about the horses you've had, Dutch is always in the conversation.
Yeah, he won tripping horse of the year 5 times. Megazord won it once.
Mm-hmm.
Had a little Megazord's half brother won the horse of the BFI once. And, everybody talks about you have one really good horse your whole life. I've had a lot of really good horses.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been exceptional, fortunate.
I think that saying is kind of going away. I think at one point in time it kind of was that way, and you're seeing some guys that have had some. Well, your career was so long. There's going to have to be a lot of good horses in there.
And so it's like
Megazord is something that a horse I always thought of too when everyone's going to bring up the horses that you had that was so great. And I thought that really did kind of revitalize and recharge your career too when he showed up, where it looked like just another part of the game you had gotten to.
Right.
You roped so good for so long, obviously, and with the world titles and everything. But when you got on him, your game stepped up.
Yeah.
And then you end up cracking some little young Thundercat out over there from West Texas out when you had him too.
Yeah.
Oh, Patrick.
Yeah. That was funny. Al Bach called me because I didn't know who I was going to rope with. I don't even have a partner for next year. I don't know who I'm going to rope with. And Al Bach calls me and goes, "I got this kid, Patrick Smith." And I'm like, "Who?" So Patrick, he's been on me. I've been needing to do one of these deals to get even with him. And so Patrick, he ropes with Gary Porteous. You've seen him. And I'm like, "I don't know." And he goes, "You should." And I'm like, "Oh, let me think about this." I said, "All right, well, give me his number." So I called him. I was like, "Patrick." And he goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Come down, let's rope some." He said, "Okay." I said, "We're going to start to be here at about 9 o'clock in the morning." Well, I told you, 8 o'clock, we're going to rope at 9 o'clock. Patrick's not there. He got pulled over. He got more speeding tickets than anybody rodeo back then. And he shows up and So I said, okay, we'll just make a few runs. Well, I turned the first one, and your freaking rope goes out the back. I'm like, I'm not pretty sure if this is going to work or
Hey,
not.
Big Al, what do you got going on?
What we got going here? This kid's throwing the rope behind him. So anyway, we had a good time. I loved roping with Patrick. It was so much fun. And
Because
so
it wasn't very much longer, or it wasn't very far before that. He was riding BMX bikes or motorbike. What was it?
Yeah,
It was something like that.
Yeah, he was riding bikes, worked at Chili's or.
And he didn't get started roping until he was 16 years old. And he wasn't much older than that at the time, really. Was he 18, 19 years old?
Yeah, I think it was somewhere in that neighborhood.
So crazy in the fact that someone able to pick it up.
He was talented, man.
That
He
fast.
was so athletic about soft and sharp about his game.
And then a good heel horse.
And he had
that
a
was
really
Jaws,
good
right,
Jaws,
at the time?
Yeah, he had a really
So he
good
kind of had a lot of things going for him.
Yeah. He keeps telling me I drew him in a draw pot somewhere, and I didn't know who. And I might have drawn him, but I don't know. But he says that. It's like, he said he was standing right beside me, and I'm looking at the list, and he goes, I'm like, I drew Patrick Smith. Who is Patrick Smith? And I was like, I don't think that's true, but it could have been. It could have been. But yeah, our career was, for a year, we won second at Odessa, won second at Denver, won second at San Antonio, we won second.
Winning the world by Reno, correct?
Yeah.
I remembered right.
Yeah, we were rolling. We was in second and everything. Then we went in a little cold spell, but we did good. So I told him and man, we had so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, so much fun.
What was fun about him? Just
because
kind of being younger and
he was
fresh.
Younger and just naive about everything. And here I've been rodeoed with Leo all my life. And I'm like, he's on the phone constantly talking. I mean, I think that's when cell phones just kind of
came out. Yeah.
You know, he'd be on the phone talking to this, talking to that, talking to this. And we were just like, oh my gosh. And it's like, I just laugh at him. And I was like, and then so we coming around and it's getting close. And he goes, I think I'm going to get married. I'm like, don't do it. I said, I don't mind you getting married, but just wait till after the finals.
Yeah.
I said, and I told him, I said, if you get married before the finals, I'm not going to rope with you. And so he never did let me tell him. The reason I got married in 81 before the finals, and that's the only year I never won anything at the finals.
You didn't forget it.
And I forget. And I'm like, dude, don't do it. I mean, it's just like, don't do it. I think he roped Matt Tyler and won the average that year at the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but yeah, I was like, don't do it, dude. I don't care if you get married, just get married December the 12th.
Yeah.
The day after the finals.
Let's get our business taken care of.
Yeah. But, and I told him, I said, if you do it, I'm not roping with you.
So he did it.
He did it. I didn't rope with him.
Because I remember he floated around with partners, I think, throughout that, but ended up making the finals.
Yeah.
And then, first finals wins the average Matt Tyler. And then, did you rope Kyle Lockett? I feel like.
I did rope Kyle Lockett.
Then started with, then it seemed like shortly after that was Corey Pesca.
Yeah.
And you guys had a great run.
Yeah, we did.
You guys had a great run
with Corey. I tried to rope with Corey several times. Paul was still roping, and I was like, hey, I want to rope with Corey. No, I'm going to rodeo. I'm going to do this. And,
your guys' run really fit, where at the time you were blowing the barrier out and setting them up, and he was teeing off.
Yeah, he's good. He was kind of, Beers started a little bit faster.
Mm-hmm.
When he was cracked out, he throwed faster than anybody else. And then Rich come along. Rich is just smooth. He don't. Everybody talks about Rich don't throw fast. Rich throw faster than any of them. I mean,
Rich back in the day. Yeah, right.
Back in the day, when I was when they was amateur and stuff, he threw fast.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he got Speedy, he didn't have to throw fast.
Yeah.
He just had catch. You know, Speedy tried Dennis Gaze, he tried Clay Cooper, he tried them all. They just didn't do it. But then they got Rich.
And
he turn them, 1, 2, heel, boom, 1, 2, heel, 2 feet every time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it just worked. It just clicked. And that's kind of the way Corey was. I could go one more jump, and then he just tee off on him right there.
I remember some of the runs. You had a gray horse when you were open with him at the finals. It was so fast-footed. I remember some of the runs you guys made when he would tee off, and that sucker was just looking down the rope. Just your finish that you guys had at the NFR was so fun to watch. And the amount of horses that you were able to just ride that, I mean, no one else. You showed them in such a good way because you were able to, just like I say, you've been on so many of them. Yeah. And that horse was a little strong, but just how you managed it and how he threw was just an amazing finish.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah, that's what I see that today, that the horses, if you watch Fort Worth, the horses don't know how to work the left fence. I mean, they hit and they got a dead spot or something. Our horses then, they come to the fence, they were rolling. They knew they got that way, they better be getting out of there. And then shortly after, getting faced.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was like, we talked about that earlier, start and the finish. And that kills him, you know. And I mean, and I tell all them guys, when you're going, the first run that Butch Kirby sees, you're going to give him an impression, or Harry Rose, as to how your horse faces. If your horse don't face on the first time he sees you,
remembers it.
This guy, Charlie Crawford's horse don't face.
Yep. I always call it the mercy flags.
Get you,
they're going to
get you by a tenth.
Okay. Yeah. A tenth or half. Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
you know, and for sure now that will do you in.
Yeah. Yeah. The start does make up a lot of time on the ones that are good and then fast footed ones.
Yeah. So,
and then you were doing some, you've been also, I remember when the fraternities kind of started, you were doing some judging. Have you been doing any more judging?
No, I haven't. I judged a couple, and then Jackie and I moved up here and started the
Too busy.
377.
Yeah.
They call me and like,
yeah.
Hey, you want to do this? And I'm like, nah.
Because you also spent a lot of time in the AQHA.
I did.
Quite a few years in that as well.
I did 15 years with Carol Rose showing, going to the World Show, a few horse shows here and there.
How much of that did you think helped a little bit of your knowledge on the head side, and then also finding horses as well? Did you feel like that fit in?
You know, there's some, I mean, a little bit, because you got to ride so many of her horses and stuff. And, you know, I had Bobby Lewis there that was a great trainer, and rode for her, Carol, for so long, you know, and they mentored me there in that line. So in the show world line. So this is what you got to do and this. And so it just opened more doors for different horses, different people, different avenues and things like that, and learn how to look, what to wear, what not to wear.
Yeah.
You know, so I showed up at Jackson, Mississippi one year at the horse show, and I got a blue jean shirt on. I mean, starched blue jean shirt. Carol goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm going to rope, I guess, or ride." "No, what is that shirt?" And I'm like, "It's a nice shirt. It's clean." Starched.
Yeah.
Clean. That's a work shirt. We're at a horse show. Look like you're at a horse show. We're showing. We want Charlie Crawford to notice you.
Never thought about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you come from team ropers. I mean, you're kind of wearing what you have.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, it was a show, and to present it, there was a certain element of professionalism they kept in there that was different than, a lot different than rodeo, and I'm sure back in the day too, but it was different, huh?
Yeah. So said, "Yes, ma'am. I work for you. I'll put a different shirt on." So I went and got a different shirt. Didn't get.
That is interesting.
So, yeah. So, you know, and so in the early, we didn't have sponsors. So we wore whatever we wanted to wear. So I wore sweaters.
I remember that. I remember sweaters and your chinks at the NFR one year.
You know, I mean, a shirt, I had long sleeve shirts and stuff, but I always wore sweaters because it's cold. I like being, sweater tucked in, didn't get in your way.
Right.
It was kind of classy looking, I thought. I wore, most of the time I had collar tips, with little silver collar tips on them. And, it was, started that era. Some other guys started doing it too. But I did. I mean, I wore, I don't know how many sweaters I had, but I mean, I always wore a bright colored sweater, just thought it looked good.
Yeah. I never thought about that, because I remember Joseph when I started roping with him, and then, going to some of the fraternities with Jay, and, they would talk about, the difference between, well, the horse just looks, like this, and, how long hair, and, we're thinking like, well, we don't think about that. I thought that was how it worked. Well, this also is a show. You're showing the horse. They got to have a certain appearance. Yeah. So it was one of those things for the first time being a rodeo guys. It's different.
Carries over. So, I told Caleb that one time. He was somewhere, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to help you for your next one. Don't wear a dull shirt. Wear a brighter color shirt. Something that kind of stands out where we know who you are, but it just looks more attractive.
Yeah, you're showing, putting on a show.
Yeah.
When did sponsors kind of start showing up in the industry?
It had to be in the 90s.
Yeah,
somewhere.
That's what it seemed like it was right then.
had Classic and Cactus. And
Seemed like ropes were kind of the first ones. Maybe some of the feed companies.
Yeah, maybe Purina.
And Wranglers and stuff like that. And seemed like that was kind of the first ones that started getting involved, it felt like.
Yeah. Yeah, the ropes for sure. You had Classic, Cactus, Professional Choice, Fastback, Gators, and whatever other rope companies they are.
I remember Kings being such a big, everyone knew the King ropes. They were so notorious. But I can't even remember seeing them on anyone's shirt.
Maybe Bob Harris, but I don't even know if he had. I mean, he used King
Willard.
ropes. Willard,
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
that's a historical company up there with Kings, and I thought about that. I never actually remembered seeing any of that on anyone's shirt.
Yeah.
What we talked about the money as well. The quarter of the money, half the money, and when was it when it finally got equal money at the NFR, and what created that? Because I always tell everyone, I don't know if sometimes because Breakaways was going through that same stuff. Because I remember as watching some of the team ropers had to go through, didn't have as many in the rodeos, it wasn't a mandatory event, getting the money added. And then, now we're seeing it too, where they rodeo basically all year with everyone. And then the finals is different, it's off over here and not even close to the money. But I remember telling them there was a certain time at the NFR, I feel like, was it the 90s or early 2000s where everyone stood up, if I remember right?
Yeah, it was, we always have an orientation meeting at the finals where all the contestants have to go. And, it's like, okay, you're going to do this, and you got to do this. And then somebody was like, what about equal money at team roping? Well, then here comes the uproar. Well, none of the team ropers are going to rope unless it get equal money. Well, too late, boys. You're going to rope, maybe next year. But it always seemed like it started at the finals, and then it'd carry over the next year, and it'd carry over the next year. And then, finally we got it in there. And I'm not even for sure who was the director when we got it. Maybe Tanazi. Probably Tanazi. Whenever he did it, got it passed through.
Because it seemed like all the contestants stood up.
Yeah, they did. Finally, all but the Bronc Riders.
All but the Bronc Riders.
Yeah, they weren't for it.
Well, I remember Canada was not for team roping for the longest time.
They're still not really for it.
Are they?
Yeah. So Robin Borwash, when we had the Pro Tours whatever, the rodeos with the patch, everybody had the patches and team deals. What were they called?
Winston Pro Tours?
Maybe so. Maybe Winston Pro Tours or Coors deal. I don't know. Whatever there was. And he goes, well, I'll tell you, you're never going to have team roping in Calgary. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, and they made it mandatory. I called him. I'm like, hey, we're going to have team roping in Calgary. He goes, no, we're not. And they went amateur a couple of years there.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they have it, but they have it in
a separate building.
A separate
don't even have it during the rodeo.
Venue.
Yeah.
But I think one of these days they'll have it.
It always, I never could figure that out. I couldn't figure out what the discrimination was towards the team roping. It was kind of like one of those eras where their dad didn't like it, so then they don't like it. And it seemed like it was just a generation of, I don't like it, but I'm not sure why. Because if you think about a sick cow out there in the pasture, are you going to have your buddy Hayes for you and jump off and throw it down, or are you going to hit it and heal it and doctor it? Because even the argument of even be able to say it's not a cowboy event, we highly disagree with you, because that is some of the ways that things got doctored back in the day.
Exactly. Like calf ropers are always kind of against it. Well, now they all team rope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, wish we had team roped earlier. Yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah.
It's a good event. Team roping is a good event.
It's a great event.
Everybody can do it.
Everybody can do it.
Enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got the number system where you
a lot of longevity in it.
So you can go here, go there, and do what you want to do and have fun. Don't hold it against us.
Yeah, it was a crazy era when that was going through that. I never understood it.
Yeah, and I'm sure the breakaway ropers are doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it's because I was kind of, when I first got my card, I was seeing what you guys were fighting, and then it got better when I started, making it and getting my card and stuff like that. But I just remember seeing it, and then now with Jackie, watching a lot of the same things, it's kind of going through the same stuff. But it's wild. But man, it has been fun to watch the Cowboy Channel, where I can keep up with it and watch it. And
I love it.
The X Factor, being able to watch the jackpots, and things like that. And it's still fun to keep a guy's head in the game and watch how it's evolving.
That's what I tell him. I said, boys, I got to take a couple of days off. I'm a bit tired. I've been rodeoing hard. They go, what? I said, well, I've been to Cheyenne. I went over here. To Salinas, and I said, did all in one day. But I mean, I'm tired. And it's like,
That's funny.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Well, I appreciate.
Cowboy Channel's done a lot for the sport.
Yeah.
Opened a lot of eyes. I can tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully, it's helped a lot of the guys with the sponsors and being seen, and hopefully, it's good for the sponsors where they continuing to keep adding to the industry.
Yeah,
that's where a lot of the money is coming from. So.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great sport.
Mm-hmm.
Rodeo's.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate everything you're doing and bringing team roping back to Stephenville and what you and Troy are doing over there, and Jackie. And man, it's good to see a facility out there where team roping's really strong here in this town. So we appreciate everything you guys are doing, and appreciate everything you did through me, for my career, living there in Llano and getting to come rope with you. And man, just watching you and studying you for so long, man, I was such a huge fan. So it's an honor for me to be able to have you on this podcast. So appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate it, Charlie. Enjoyed it. Hope we can do something.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
See you, buddy. If you're interested in coming to a clinic this year, my 2025 clinic schedule is posted on charliecrawford.training. Go there and see if we are headed to an arena near you. If you're wanting to host a clinic, I have a few dates available. March 7th through 9th, March 28th through 30th, May 30th through June 1st, July 11th through 13th, August 29th through 31st, September 12th through the 14th, September 26th through the 28th. My October is open, and November. All the details and the easy sign-up form can be found on my website under the Clinics tab. If you have any questions, email me at charliecrawfordtraining@gmail.com.